In 2014, the IRS quietly issued a single notice that legalized a retirement loophole worth billions, and to this day, no one in Washington has ever explained why they let it stand. It starts small, almost boring. A workplace retirement plan, a payroll deduction, the kind of paperwork most people sign without reading. In 1978, Congress created the 401k as a modest savings tool, capped and regulated, meant to help ordinary workers set aside a little for old age. For decades it stayed that way, a limit on contributions, a limit on income, rules everyone assumed applied equally. Somewhere inside the tax code, though, a door had been left open since 2001. Nobody used it. Nobody talked about it. It just sat there unexplained until an IRS notice in 2014 gave it a name and quietly a green light. Here's what that door does. Most people know the 401k limit, a little over $23,000 a year. What almost no one knows is that the real ceiling, once you count employer money and after-tax contributions, sits north of $70,000. That gap, the space between what you're told you can save and what the law actually allows, can be filled with after-tax dollars and converted, often within days, into a Roth account. Tax-free growth, tax-free withdrawals, no income cap. And that last part is the impossible piece because a regular Roth IRA cuts off high earners entirely. Anyone over roughly $160,000 a year isn't even allowed to open one. This backdoor doesn't ask your income. It never has. The official explanation is almost insultingly thin. The IRS says the 2014 notice wasn't a new rule at all, just a clarification of law that had technically existed since 2001. Nothing to see, nothing new, just paperwork catching up to policy. But that explanation collapses the moment you ask the obvious question. If this had been available for 13 years, why did almost no financial advisor mention it? Why did almost no plan administrator support it? And why did it take a formal notice, issued with no press conference, no public hearing, no floor debate, to finally make it usable? A loophole that sits unused for over a decade isn't a technicality. It's a door nobody was supposed to find. Now watch what happens next, because this is where the number nobody accounts for shows up. In 2021, leaked IRS records obtained by ProPublica revealed that Peter Thiel, co-founder of PayPal, had built a Roth IRA worth just over $5 billion from an account that, by law, was never supposed to hold more than a few thousand. In 1999, he'd placed founders' shares of his own company into the account at a fraction of a cent each, valuations so low they barely registered as income. As PayPal's value exploded, so did the account, and because it was a Roth, every dollar of that $5 billion was shielded from tax forever, completely legally. The Senate Finance Committee opened an investigation, and what it found wasn't one account. It was thousands. Congressional investigators identified more than 28,000 taxpayers holding Roth accounts worth over $5 million each, and a smaller cluster, fewer than 100 people, holding over $25 million. Some balances stretched past that, into territory the original law never imagined a retirement account could reach. The committee's own report called it a mechanism never intended for wealth accumulation on this scale. It used the word abuse. And still, the door stayed open. So who benefited from the silence? Not the plan administrators processing the after-tax contributions, though they profited too. Not the wealth management firms that quietly built entire practice areas around Mega Backdoor conversions, charging fees to clients who could afford to ask the right question. The real beneficiaries were the people who never needed the door explained to them at all, because their attorneys had already found it years before anyone had a name for it. A bill to close the loophole for high earners moved through Congress in 2021, tucked into a larger tax package. It passed the House. It died in the Senate quietly without a formal vote anyone points to. The notice from 2014 is still active. The accounts are still growing tax-free today. So here's what's never been answered, not by the IRS, not by the Senate committee, not by anyone who had the chance. Why was a rule that let ordinary savings limits balloon past $70,000 a year and let a $5 billion fortune grow completely untaxed, allowed to sit unclosed for over a decade after everyone in Washington knew exactly what it was doing? And if they knew and did nothing, what does that tell you about whose money that door was really built for?